Good morning, listeners, and welcome to episode 11 of Eternal Energies. Before I introduce my two lovely guests this morning, let me just say that this programme is giving you the tools so you can understand and make your own way and your own decisions for the choices that we give for different people that are here through their faiths and beliefs. So without ado, I introduce my two lovely guests, Michael Williamson and Marianne Turner.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Good morning.
Let me shake your hands.
Good morning.
It's lovely to be here on this wet and dreary morning, but we're going to uplift it. Without ado, let me turn to you first, Michael, and let me ask you, when did you first start in this as a medium?
As a medium, I started around 1980 after seeing my friends who I used to do charity work for, and she went to a spiritualist church and she told me about the different things that had gone on while she had this sitting, and I went back and told my wife at the time, and she said, we'll go to the spiritualist church in Sudbury. So we duly went that Sunday afternoon, and that was my first introduction to spiritualism. And as the time went on, as we kept going each week, and I met various people, and then I happened to drift away to Helsted from Sudbury, to the Helsted church, where I was introduced to Anne Walmsley, who's sadly passed on now. And then she introduced me to Mr. Bill Lyons, who was a very well-known medium at that time. I sat in open circle with Bill Lyons for approximately a year, and then I went into a closed circle where I sat for 4 years every week. And every week it had to be that way because of the dedication that you have to put into the work that you do. And after the 4 years, they turned around and said to me, we think you now are able to let you loose on the general public. So I started my first platform work in Oxford Road Spiritualist Church in Clacton. And from then I went on doing church work until there became a time in my personal life where I had to give it up for 10 years, because at that time I had to go back to work, and that was the time I became an undertaker. And at that time I didn't realise it, but from going from the platform work into undertaking gave me the experience that I needed to gather my knowledge of the different faiths that there was in our world, because I was in the undertaking business for 12 years.
Some people would say that was our profession, talking to the dead.
Well, yes, that was part of it. I did in that time also come across many spirits that hadn't gone to the spirit world because of the circumstances that were around them, that they didn't want to leave their loved ones behind. They wanted to be close to them, and the grief that was about, they wanted to help them. But I knew that by my experience as being a medium, that I could help them on their way. And there was many times when I had people come to view their loved ones in the chapel of rest that we got talking, and I believe that that gave them comfort at that time. So from going from platform work into the undertaking business gave me that experience also of knowing many different people. When you consider that I was in that business for 12 years, that I probably had 6,000-7,000 people actually go through where I used to work, and the funerals that I'd done, and the many different religions and faiths that I came into contact with and the way that it was. But then circumstances changed that I started platform work again, and it was as though I hadn't been away, because as soon as I decided that I was going back into platform work, then it came about that as soon as I started that, then the many bookings came through from the different churches where I now serve. Some new ones, some of the old ones, they never forget you in that way. But my faith that I always had in spiritualism, because over the many years, even when I first got into it, the circumstances, the things that had happened, like the way that I actually got into the funeral business, it was because I think I was destined to be that, to go into that profession, because it was at my ex-mother-in-law's funeral that there wasn't room for me to sit in the back of the limousine, so I had to sit in the front with the driver. And I was chatting to the driver, and I said, I think I would like to do this work. And he said, I'll see what I can do. And the next day I had a phone call from the undertakers saying, there is a job for you here if you want one.
Very good.
So from one day to the next, I'd gone into the undertaking profession, which was many years ago before I actually went into it full time, that I was there part time. And it was a case of, it didn't seem strange to me in any way, because the faith that I had and the faith that I've built up over the years had stood me in good stead for the work that I had to do at that particular time.
Just before we move on a bit more,
Yeah?
do you believe that everything is meant to be?
Yes, it does. It has to be, because I feel that there are times in your life when circumstances have to change, the circumstances around you, and if you're not prepared to change them yourself, then I believe that Spirit will in some way guide you in the direction that you need to go, and go down the pathway that you need to go, which is where I always used to do spiritual healing, but then over the last few years I've now gone into the Reiki healing, which we both goes up to Reiki 3. We didn't want to do the master's part of it because we didn't want to teach Reiki, we just wanted to do the healing in itself. But as you find with lots of different sorts of healing, then sometimes it changes to how Spirit wants you to work.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you're never going to say, yes, this is what I'm definitely going to do for the rest of my life.
Absolutely.
Because Spirit will manoeuvre things and manoeuvre people around you to make things come how it's supposed to be for you, and the pathway that you're supposed to take in this life. Because it's as though they want what is the best for you, but as human beings we don't always know what we want ourselves because of the outside world crowding in, everyday living, people that are around you, the problems of the world, and illness and different things. But if Spirit wants you to do something, they will find a way to do it.
Absolutely.
They will never leave you in the pathway if that pathway is not right for you.
Absolutely, that's right.
All right?
Although we all have choices, and those
We have
choices.
choices. But they say we have choices, but then are those choices inspired by Spirit?
Well, they're informative choices, yes.
Well, this is it. There's always that doubt when you think that, is that my choice, or
Yeah,
is that, am I being manoeuvred and manipulated into what I have to be doing?
And we all know about informative choices coming from the same.
That's right.
Thank you very much for the moment.
Right, thank you.
Marion, my dear,
Yes.
I'm asking you the same questions coming from a perspective of healing.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be Reiki or hands-on or whatever other healing you do, but I also know that you're inspired to make wonderful jewellery, and there's a lot of love that goes into this jewellery,
Absolutely.
and there's a lot of inspired and divination that goes into this, really. How did you get into it?
Well, if I give you a brief history, before I actually met Michael, I was in a caring profession, and that for me was very fulfilling, although very demanding, etc.
Yeah.
Having had an interest in spirituality for many, many years, working with the elderly, I felt I had an understanding of the, the end of life program and things like that, and I felt it was a privilege to be with them in that time. And I was very aware that Spirit was with me at that time, and I felt that that was my pathway at that time. Unfortunately, I had a chest infection which didn't clear up, and I have an unstable back due to care work. That set the back off, and I had to stop working. So I was always told many years ago by Michael that I would stop working because of my back, and I just, you just put it at the back of your mind, but it actually came true.
Is that fun, put it at the back of your mind?
I tried to, but unfortunately, because I'd been very busy in management in care, stopping work was very, very difficult for me, because emotionally, psychologically, I had all this energy but no physical ability to do the work. So Michael, being very supportive, because we were together at that time, he said, I need to focus my mind on something, and he suggested art. Well, I'm not an artist at all. He is, I couldn't even do a Lowry picture myself. So I said, well, I fancy doing jewellery, but it has to be different because so many people do jewellery. So that was the start of it. And we'd gone away on holiday, and we were looking at books, as we both like books, and I found this one that said knitting with wire. And I thought, oh, I can knit, and I can try knitting with wire. So that is what I started off doing, because I thought it was really unusual. And from there, I started thinking about moving it on to something else that is perhaps people would buy, that's smaller items and things. And I bought these little angel fairy kits, sort of like a key ring type thing. And I sold a few of them very cheaply, and they went. And I just thought, no, actually, I can do that myself. And from then, the angels have started in my jewellery. They started off as little key rings, bag charms, and then it developed onto necklaces and earrings and sun catchers and all sorts of things. And I feel so privileged to do it, because for me, working with all these beautiful sparkly beads and beautiful, beautiful colours, it's like colour therapy. It's so satisfying to be able to create something.
It is,
And the pleasure I get, and the ability to give the intention of love when I'm making it, so that when the items are sold, and I've had feedback from people saying, I don't know what it is, I feel different when I'm wearing your necklace. My husband said, I can see a difference in you. That gives me such a wonderful feeling. It's such a reward.
Yeah, Bev has that.
So I can understand that. And it is so satisfying.
Yeah.
It does take over the spare room of it, which is a bit of a joke. But
we won't go into that.
No.
We won't go down those roads. Because Bev might be watching this, and she will be.
But I love that creativity, and being obviously very involved in spiritual churches, MBS events and things like that. It's become a way of life for us, and what a lovely way of life too. So
do you ever think about concentrating a bit more on the healing side?
The healing side's really interesting, because when the opportunity came up for doing Reiki 1, I felt drawn to it, and in a way it was a lesson for me to learn, because Reiki 1's about self-development.
Who did you do Reiki on?
With Val Folbig from Purple Feather, and the Reiki 1 is about self-development as well. And I was thinking, okay, this perhaps might be the way I need to go, because having done caring for 16 years, it was about giving, and it was my time to actually say to myself, this is for me, this is my time to start developing, my time to start moving forward spiritually. So that's why I went into the Reiki 1, and Michael, he said he was interested, so we actually did it together, which was lovely. Amazed with the difference in me with Reiki 1, so we went straight on to Reiki 2, and that's a lovely big step up. So the healing improves, and then we went on to Reiki 3. But strangely enough, I always felt it would be Michael that was doing the healing. I did it because I wanted and needed to do it.
Why did you think
Because I don't know, I just see this as Michael's thing. I still do regular healing at home, not many people, but I still enjoy the healing side of it. But I have been told, spiritually, that they thank me for taking the pathway because they have now got me onto the development side, which I need to be working on as well. So it runs hand in hand, but I love the healing. I love the fact that, you know, you can channel this energy for people, and again you get the feedback of the difference in the person, you know, so it's such a blessing to have that. So it's there.
Lovely point of view.
It is
coming from a different angle.
Absolutely.
Really
so it's really like, you know, Spirit hauled me in to do the Reiki, and now I sit in the development group. So
that's good. Who
yeah.
do you sit with?
I sit with Joe Green.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Joe. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's great fun, lots of laughter and lots of inspiration as well. So.
Well, thank you for the moment.
Thank you.
Really. Can I bring both of you in here now? And I'll just try out the question. We've heard a lot about development circles. Now people sit in development circles maybe for a short time and blossom, and maybe by blossom you know what I mean, by use their intuitive skills that they have. Other people sit in there for years and years and don't make any difference. What do you think about that?
Some of the circles that are running now, yes, they do. People sit in there for short whiles and they develop their, as you say, intuitive skills in as such. But to me, they are not getting the grounding of proper spirituality like it used to be in what I would call the old days.
Yeah, I remember that.
When I first started.
Yeah.
And some of them, yes, they do that way, but if it keeps going the way it is, that they only develop those skills, whether it be tarot cards, clairvoyance or whatever, psychic, and they haven't got the grounding, then part of that will be lost because they don't have the grounding of what the basics of spirituality is, where on a Sunday service you have an address which is supposed to be about spirituality in some way and about the love that we're supposed to have for our world and everybody in it, and they're only developing that part of it where it's giving people readings, which is part of it, don't get me wrong, but if they don't do both, then at some stage in the future, after we're gone, that part will be missing because they won't have learned about the basics of learning about spirituality, where it started, how it started, and the basics of the principles of the spirituality, which we know there are. This is what we're taught, but as you always say, it is people's choices, and they have to develop how they want. If they choose not to go down the philosophy side of it, then in a way they are missing out that part.
Let me look at it, if I can come to you at a different angle.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind there are going to be people watching
Yes.
who maybe what we've said and what we're doing might go right over their heads.
Right.
So today we have a new phenomenon coming along, and that's quite a big word for me to say.
Yes.
The psychic.
Yeah.
The psychic seems to be popping up all over the place. What do you see, if you do see anything at all, the difference between a psychic, bearing in mind that I know some really good psychics that will go to spirit and bring back just the same as a medium will bring back, and a spiritual medium?
Where we have the difference between the medium, the clairvoyant medium, and the psychic, we find that the clairvoyant medium will bring those that have passed the spirit back to those who are you're talking to, your sitter, or the person that you're giving that reading to, and they will prove of survival after death of the physical body, in the fact that they will bring back the certain traits of that person, perhaps how they dressed, how they spoke, what their personality was, and all different aspects about that person that has passed over, and perhaps any message that they want to bring. Whereas the psychic will go straight to what they want to say to that person, what the message is about that sitter that they're with at that time, more than about proving the survival after the death of the physical body. So that they will be bringing the things that they're seeing with that person about themselves, like the problems that they've had, and all this particular sort of thing. But spirit does help with that also. But you also find that sometimes things will interact. The clairvoyant medium, yes, will bring that, and they will bring the message that they want to bring to the sitter. But then again, the psychic will also bring back people, but they will concentrate perhaps more on the personal thing for the sitter themselves, rather than try and prove that life after death still exists in another dimension, in another state, or whatever you wish to call it.
Do you think that spiritualism, and I do have a bit of a difference with that word, but I don't really like anything to do with isms, because then you get in committees and all that sort of thing. But do you think that it's changing in any way?
Spiritualism is changing all the while. It has since I've been in it for the last 40 years. It has changed so much over the years that people don't seem to be quite as dedicated in the fact of that they want to know, what, as I said before, the basics of the spiritualism, how it started, how it developed, and this sort of thing, as far back as Arthur Conan Doyle, the Fox sisters. That's all moved on from that time, and it has to move on to a certain extent to keep up with the modern day, but it still has to be remembered of where it all started, and not just go on to one side, like people going for readings and this sort of thing, which a lot of people do, because in this modern age they need that reassurance, whether it comes from a clairvoyant or whether it comes from a psychic. It has to be brought to their attention that there is more to life after this life. There is another dimension, another life. So they need that reassurance that they're not struggling through this life on this planet now in vain, because some people will think that they will be totally lost, and that is it. There's nothing past this, of everything that they've gone through on this earth plane. There has to be more and more, and this is where the modern day spiritualist is coming into its own. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't criticise anybody with how they work. If that is their way of working, then that is how it has to be. At the end of the day, if they're doing the job that Spirit wants them to do by helping people on this earth plane, whether it be through messages, healing, or whatever phenomena you like to call it, what big word
again,
say that. Then yes, it's all good. There can't be anything bad about it. The only bad bit perhaps is where people are exploiting the situation and trying to make a fast buck.
You'll always get that.
But you'll always get that in any circumstances, whatever it may be. But it's the fact of the helping people, because we all have to live in this world now, and we are all human. We must never forget that we are here and now. We all have our own faults, our own illnesses, but we have to try and find that level that is right for us to work at. And when we find that level to work at, then that is the level for us, whatever it may be.
I do think that whatever resonates with you in this
That's
world
right, yeah.
resonates with you for a reason.
That's right,
and
yeah.
whatever that reason happened to be, it's through your own personal choices.
It is. This is it. Everybody has their choices. They choose what pathway they want to take in this life, and they have to be responsible for that choice, though. They have, they have to take. At the end of the day,
comes knowledge, and you only get that knowledge through greater years.
That's right.
Like yourselves, and
That's
we've
right.
been in there.
Yeah.
You only get it from there. But what I was trying to get to was that with the psychics today, and sometimes the spiritual mediums here, and I do think there is a difference between working with spirit and being a spiritualist.
Yeah.
Because then there is a bit of a conflict that's there.
Well, yeah.
But having said that, that's a choice that people make.
That's right.
And whatever that happens to be, then, as my friend would say, don't knock it till you try it. That kind of thing.
Anybody can say they're a spiritualist. People don't have to go to church to say they're a spiritualist, because if they lead that spiritual life, yes, but there's, as you say, there's a difference between living a spiritual life and being a spiritualist. Because if you're working for spirit, then you are constantly in that part of it, that you live it, you breathe it, you do this. It's like, perhaps I've heard other people say that people are the Sunday Christians or whatever, they only go on a Sunday, whereas a spiritualist will live that life every day of the week. It's the same as your friends, our friends, the North American Indians. They lived that life all the time. They were at one with the world, with the nature, and they lived to that law.
Yeah, I mean, each to their own. I mean, different civilizations and beliefs and faiths only evolve through time.
Yeah.
The same as we evolve through time.
Yeah.
And if we go back to the Stone Age and we look at the situation now, and we can imagine ourselves having this conversation, but not as the way we are now.
No.
But it'd be totally different, because
It would, yeah.
we would use different words because of the situation we are in at the time.
Yeah.
And as we progress through life, we gain the knowledge that gets us to where we are.
That's
here.
right, yeah.
All I was trying to do is to inform our viewers that being a spiritualist and working for spirit is a different matter altogether. You have hit on one aspect of the situation, but when you work with spirit, you don't have to have the same kind of convictions that you do when you work as a spiritualist. Because with a spiritualist, you have a faith and you have a belief that goes with being a spirit. Working with spirit, then, because we are all spirit, we are born of spirit, and we'll go back to spirit.
Yeah.
We are, if you like, and making it easy for people to understand, tapping into the energy that we are born with.
Yeah. Well, this is it. I mean, but as you say, some people will tap into that energy, some won't. Some will go their own ways, but it is their choice.
Absolutely.
Whatever faith they want to go, that is their choice. They can go down. We don't knock whatever people want to believe. If that is what they want to believe, then that is their choice. And it all comes down to a choice. We all have that choice, whatever we do in life and whatever faith we want to go down. If people are happy in their faith, then it's fine. They will go down that pathway, whatever happens. But as we say, it's living that spiritual life is not always the same as saying you are a spiritualist, because anybody can say they are a spiritualist. And
I do understand that.
And but there is a difference.
Trying to get the listeners to to understand that we're open to everybody, and we want them to get the tools, as we said before, and they can make their choices as it is.
Well, this is it. I mean, through life, I've known many people who've been down the Christian path, the Catholic path, whatever path they've started out on when they were smaller, whatever path they were put on, have come to the realisation that there is more, there's more things to do, there's more to explore. This world, there is everything to explore in this world, whatever it may be, but the fact that they explore different faiths until they find one that is right for them. And then they have to develop that, especially spiritualism, where they have to develop and get the tools that they need to take it further.
I quite agree.
And this is it. It's all about learning, because you're learning all the time. You're learning through this life, whatever it may be. You learn from your experiences, from your illnesses. You learn every aspect. Whatever situation you're put into, there is always a lesson for you to learn, whatever it may be. And that is the beauty of this life. You have all these different experiences, you meet all these different sorts of people, you meet people of every religion, every belief, whatever it may be, whether it's pagan, whether it's whoever they worship. If that is their God, then that is their God.
I quite understand. And rather than getting into a situation of going back to how it was, we must move on here as the time is getting on. So can I just for briefly say thank you for a moment, Michael. Can I come to you, Mary?
Yes.
And can I say to you that Michael has touched on the subject of different faiths and beliefs, but let's just confine ourselves to the spiritualist movement at this moment. And if we go to other people's religion and we say to the Anglican priest, or we say to the Church of England priests, or the Roman Catholics, that we are a spiritualist, there is a conflict of interest there.
There certainly is, yeah.
Do you think that matters?
To some people it would be very important. You know, some people would not like to feel that they were crossing the boundaries and challenging, but the more I'm getting into this, I think the more you have to question, and there is a lot of knowledge out there, and there's a lot of avenues to go, and there are a lot of spiritual or church people who you can actually have open conversations with and who don't judge you or condemn. And I think, to be quite honest, that my concern with religion, in its very large inverted commas, there are a lot of judgmental people, and I just think, as I'm learning to develop on the spiritual side of it, I just like to embrace everything. I like to look into different religions, because when you look back into the history again of the evolution of man, the historical and religious side and the spiritual side, there are so many links, and the more I learn, the more I'm seeing that the links are there. So unfortunately there are people that would condemn and also would judge. I came from strict, Church of England, used to go to Sunday school, things like that. But I went to do the confirmation classes and they told me I didn't understand, and I felt so let down by it. And that's when I started changing. Thinking,
I think we all get to a point in our lives when we change, unfortunately, through dogma and dictation. Maybe it's a case of people don't want to rock any boats until they get to a point where they're more, so we say, stable within their lives. I don't know, but that's for the listeners to understand and find out.
It's a conversation. Very much a personal pathway.
What I was trying to say is that because there is a conflict, things have been changed and adapted through the religious trait to suit ourselves today. And if we look through, and we throw things like history and science into the pot, we look at it today and then we can see how, because we're learning things, the knowledge is greater now than it's ever been. Through the cosmos and all the rest of the things and the professors and all that, which it's fascinating to see and hear about, but we're learning about the beginning. We're learning about, dare I say, the creation that was supposed to be written about and how it's done. And there's the conflicts when it first starts. And then if we are looking at a practical situation whereby that whether you believe in the Kabbalah or you believe in the Bible or you believe in the sort of scrolls or the texts or whatever it happens to be in, there is a conflict of interest right from there, because we can see that it's been talked about in one place, and let's face it, we're only talking about 2,335 years ago, before this came along. But it's been talked about right at the back there, and it's been predicted that this is going to happen, that's going to happen. It's been written down, so we can see, and we don't have to be, I was going to say clairvoyant, to see where it comes from. And these, like Chinese whispers and tales from home. So I'm not surprised that there's a conflict and people are questioning things.
I think this is it, and I think if you, I'll try not to judge. I think that's the biggest problem that a human trait has. So I like to look at these things now with an open mind, and I like to sort of dissect the things and think, well, actually that sits right with me, that doesn't. And it's about learning. And for me personally, and I only speak personally, I've got a great interest in philosophy, and I'm hoping that I can develop that side, because I really want to know from that, from that era, the philosophy of this work.
The philosophy around what I don't say we do, I say all us people who work for Spirit does. It's going to be different for each person, because we're all individuals.
That's right.
Absolutely.
We attract like for like in this world, so why shouldn't we attract like for like in the Spirit, just the same? And let's face it, we're not going to be saints when we leave here and we go over there, because that ain't going to happen.
Absolutely.
And they're looking at me at the moment and say we don't want him over there anyway. And if they do, they're taking him over bit by bit. But that's not the point. The point is that it is, it's almost like a comedy of errors, whereby then we've gone through a situation where we've been so staunch, we didn't even laugh in these days, do we? At the situation, to a situation now whereby we are encouraged to laugh, because Spirit makes us laugh. And of course they do, because they were here. And if they're going to be saints like they're supposed to be, that's how we've moved on.
I think there is a reason of, of where we all evolved to, and it's sometimes you think, well, how did I get here? And it's almost like by default, and you look back on your life and you think all these things had to happen to get here, and it's quite a bizarre pathway, but there's always a reason, isn't there? There's always a reason for it.
But as you say, Bob, we all are individual. We all have been given a mind to think.
We have, yes.
And that is, some cases a good thing, but some cases a bad thing. It depends how you look at it. I mean, to use your mind is what it's for, but people don't always use their mind because of perhaps the doctrine that they've been given or what they've been led to believe. But you have a mind, and when you come to the realization that you have got a mind and you can think for yourself, and you take and believe what you want in this life, then it gets a lot easier.
Yes, I agree. I quite agree.
It's personal responsibility, isn't it?
Of course.
And because you've been given that mind to use, and some people don't, and because there's so many things to explore out there, whatever it may be, because as I said at the beginning, my work as an undertaker, I have met all different ministers of every religion, and we can all learn something from each and every one. But if you look at those people, whatever they may be, whatever religion they may be from, they have got the dedication which we should all have. Whatever we believe, we should dedicate ourselves, whether it be spiritualism, paganism, whatever it may be, all these sorts of things. If we believe in that, then we need to dedicate ourselves to that and learn from everything that is around us, not just...
I do agree, I agree. I think dedication is a very strong word.
It is.
Because to dedicate something that you are going to eat, sleep, breathe it.
Yeah.
In today's society, then unfortunately we all live in a situation where, well, not me, I'm semi-retired, and not yourselves, but I mean, we live in a situation where have more, get more, say more, want more.
Yeah.
And we get pushed along on the crest of the wave.
That's right.
And so the dedication to a faith or a belief sometimes not goes out the window, but is put on the back burner.
That's right. Yeah.
So I do think that each to our own, and when that time is right for us, we move forward.
Yeah, we moved on.
Well, time is moving on for us now.
Yeah.
It has been a pleasure
It is.
to interview both of you,
Thank you very much.
and I'll just say thank you, Michael,
Thank you.
and thank you, Marion.
And thank you very much,
Thank you
Paul.
very much.
You are more than welcome. And I just say, as we draw to a close, I'll just say, when this is available to look online, please have a look, friends, because you'll get some insight into maybe where you want to go, what pathway you want to do, and remember the pathway that you choose it for the journey that you had in life. So until we meet some other time, I say this is me signing off, Spirit Rob, saying thank you.